Welcome to HBRV Lifestyle. They call me the Honey Badger because I give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business. Today's video has a lot of important information. A lot of it the RV factories don't want me to tell you. Some of it the RV dealerships don't want me to tell you. But I'm going to pass this information on to you anyway. By the way, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2024. And the first part of this video, we're going to talk about my prediction for RV interest rates this year in 2024. I'm also going to give you some information the RV factories really don't want me to share with you. In fact, I'm probably going to get a phone call or two slapping me around for giving you this information. And even RV dealers are going to be on the fence with me talking about this, but I think you need to know as the customer, as the consumer. The third thing I'm going to talk about is the used RV market. And then lastly, I'm going to go over parts and service as I normally do on these videos. So let's get started. To give you my interest rate prediction for this year, 2024, I got to give you a little background how I got to this prediction. Okay. So December 13th, 2023, Jerome Powell gets up to speak in front of the media. I did not get to see that entire conversation live like I normally do. I was real busy. But colleagues of mine, hours later, were calling me, blowing up my phone, going, dude, Jerome Powell's going to lower interest rates 3 to 6 times next year in 2024, which is now this year. And I got super excited along with them because it means the cost of inventory is going to be less. It means, I know you won't believe me. Nobody ever believes me. But dealerships have been taking it in the shorts for the last 18 months. Now, some of you will say, well, that's karma for COVID. I understand that belief. But from a business perspective, it means that dealerships can return to some kind of reasonable profitability when interest rates go down. So I'm like, I'm going to do a video on this. But before I do a video, before I step my foot into my mouth, I'm going to watch the entire report that Jerome Powell gave. And nowhere in his initial presentation to the media did he say he was going to lower interest rates. In fact, what I'm going to do is in the description box below, I'm going to link the full video of Jerome Powell speaking about this. Now, I'm going to give you some of the cliff notes because I'm not going to spend 8 minutes talking about it. But the cliff notes were the first 13 seconds. He says, inflation is still high and stubborn, and there is no guaranteed path forward. Towards the last couple of minutes before he took media questions, he says this: the Fed members were asked to individually assess the economy. And this is where the soundbite came from, okay? This is where the confusion came from. And each individual Fed member did not want to talk about raising interest rates in 2024, but none of the members, listen to this, none of the Fed members want to take raising interest rates off the table. Now, where the soundbite came from, where he was going to lower rates, was a big thing the corporate media all put out, because he said if things stay on track and they get to 2% inflation, their target, then they can start lowering rates by the end of 2024. But there's no guarantee, guys. None. He did not guarantee squat. Okay? Because he opened his mouth about a prediction that may happen if inflation gets down where their target goal is, then he can do it. Now, I want to throw one more thing in before I give you my prediction. His other comment in there was that there's a lot of sectors of our economy that have not been affected by the interest rate hike yet. So that's another key piece to the puzzle. Now, that being said, my prediction for RV interest rates in 2024 is that they will stay stagnant. They're going to stay, the prime rate's going to stay from 8 to 10%. Now, I'm going to go one step further and say my prediction beyond that is that'll stay sticky through 2025, no matter who the president of the United States is. It could be Joe Blow next door, it's still going to be sticky for about another 2 years. Now, this is a good thing for the consumer or the customer. They don't realize it. You, the customer, don't realize it because you're not used to interest rates being this high. A lot of you, especially if you're first-time buyers in the market, you didn't buy anything when, rates were at 15, 16% in 08, 9, and 10. And I can understand that. It's very hard when you go from 3 and 4% up to 8 to 10%. But look at the price difference. Look at what dealers are selling inventory for. For you folks that have the ability to buy, not if you're struggling to put food on the table. I'm not talking about folks like that. If you're struggling to pay your bills, I'm not talking about you yourself. Obviously, we got to wait until the economy gets better for you. But if you have the ability to buy, you have the extra cash, you got good credit, everything's good, the prices that dealerships are selling new 2023 inventory for help balance out the interest rate problem. Now, there are a lot of people, I did this type of video a while back ago that was not well received, but I'm going to give you a sound bite from it. I got in this business in 2009. The folks that bought in 08, 9, and 10 refinanced their RVs in 2011 and 12 when rates dropped like a bad habit. And they saved themselves thousands of dollars. In fact, most people were in a major equity position because they bought the RV at the right time. They may have paid more interest, but a lot of times when they came in and traded in 2013, 14, 15, etc., they were not upside down in their trades because they bought at the right time. They didn't care about the rate. They cared about the price. Now, for a lot of us, including myself, I'm a payment buyer. When I go buy a car, I'm looking for a particular payment. Generally, payment and price correlate. When you do your calculations, generally, you can tell what your payment's going to be just by using a finance calculator online, right? So, truly believe that over the next 2 years, we are going to be stagnant. I don't think we're going to go up. I don't think we're going to go down. And I believe that things can change too, guys. So, if we get inflation down to 2% by March or April, then yeah, the Fed's probably going to start lowering rates very gently. They're not going to go full honey badger and lower rates from, 5.75 to 2.75 in a month. It's going to be a small, very gradual decrease to make sure inflation doesn't go rampant again. It's a control thing. Whether we believe in it or not, our money is fiat money. It's fake. It's paper with printed pictures on it so we don't kill each other for something to eat. So it has some kind of control method, and they're going to lower rates very slowly and cautiously if they do. This segment will get me in trouble with the RV factories, as well as probably a few of my RV dealer friends as well, but it needs to be said. So we're going to start with an email that was sent out. I can't name names. I can't tell you the name of the company because I'm going to get in further trouble than I'm already going to be in. But this email was sent out, and I'm going to paraphrase it. It basically stated that if the RV factories do not become profitable by the second or third quarter of 2024, then that brand probably won't exist anymore. That factory will more than likely just get shut down. Okay, so why is that really important? Well, number one, and I'll explain why in a minute, but it's cutting your nose off despite your face. I'll explain that in a minute. Number two, it means that some of my favorite brands are on the chopping block. And the real reason why this is cutting your nose off despite your face is, I'm going to go to the car business for a minute. The car business, when there's an inventory problem like there is right now, the factories start taking control and offering incentives. Now, they haven't done a very good job of it in 2023 and definitely not a good job of it in 2024. But in the past, prior to COVID, Or car manufacturers have inventory management stuff in place where if they have, let's say, car ABC with trim X, and they got like a 200-day supply of them across the country, then they come out with a big incentive program to move those cars, because the car business knows they can't just keep building. At some point, they have to have balance. You have to be able to build the car and sell the car. You can't just keep piling up new vehicles on a lot. So they create rebates, they create finance incentives, they create dealer incentives. I'll give you a great example. Best example I can give you. I bought my Hyundai Santa Fe. The dealership had to get to 30 Santa Fe's in a month, and they got like a $20,000 check. So they took a 10 grand loss on my car because it was number 30 to get an extra 20 grand. So basically my last car was a $10,000 profit to the dealership, but it didn't come out of my pocket. It came out of the factory's pocket at Hyundai. That's one example, okay? In the RV industry, and there's only a couple of exceptions, guys, and we're talking very like pinky nail exceptions to this, and mostly in motorhomes. But for the super majority of the RV business, there is no incentives to the dealers, or very little. I'll give you an example. Again, I won't name a brand, but I sold a travel trailer for a $5,000 loss. Now in the car business, they probably would have covered $2,500, $2,250 of it to move a vehicle. There would have been incentives for the dealership to sell that car at a loss. Yeah, you want to know what the factory offered me to take a 5 grand loss? $500. And by the way, in order to do that $500, I had to reorder something immediately or take something out of their yard. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because, and again, this is where I'm getting deep crap, but because they don't have any inventory management things in place, dealerships are overstuffed with 2023 inventory. So we're just repeating a cycle that started at the end of 2021. At the end of 2021, inventory lots started getting full with 2022s. Last year, 2023, people were having a tough time moving the 22s. Not only was there bad juju in the air about them, but they were overpriced. Then in 2023s, they overstuffed dealers again. And now they're trying to do it again with 2024s. And this time, dealerships have said, no way, man. That's why you don't see as many. I mean, there are some 2024s out there, and there are dealers that have quite a bit of 2024s, but not their normal stocking level because they're overstuffed with 23s. So when you're sitting there as a big executive and you're starting to tell people, hey, if you're not profitable, we're just going to shut your doors, that gives the factory no incentive to actually help with inventory control at the dealership level. Now, in all fairness, some of this is on the dealership, okay? Not all of it is on the factory. Some of it is on the dealerships. But then again, you can't keep repeating the bad mistakes over and over again. If all you're going to do is repeat history every single time, you're never going to get ahead. Now, there's nothing you can really do about it as a customer. The only thing that I can tell you as a customer that you could help with is buy 2023s instead of 24s. That would probably significantly help. But again, you're the customer, you're the consumer. You get to make your own choice on what you want to buy. But if you wanted to help the industry at all, especially on the dealership level, even though we're losing a ton of money selling 2023s, it actually benefits us in the end. It cuts our inventory costs down. That's why we're taking massive losses. So I know a lot of you won't believe me. Trust me, I know for a fact. Most of you go, he's full of crap. the factories are covering every loss that they're doing. In fact, they're making money hand over fist. No, we're not. I can personally tell you that the owner of my company, the owner that owns all the dealerships that I work for, he's written at least a $4 million check out of his own personal bank account to keep it going. Okay, so it's no BS. Dealerships, including the big corporate dealerships, are hemorrhaging money, selling inventory, and there's very little and close to no help from the manufacturers. So they really don't want you to know that. RV dealerships really don't want me to share that information, mostly because it takes away from the magic of the sale. Now, there are a few exceptions. Like I said, minuscule exceptions for the factory incentives. But for the most part, there are no factory incentives. So there's magic words that customers and consumers like to hear. And those are two words that normally you would really like to hear. So salespeople and managers and owners of dealerships kind of really don't want you to know that they are the ones taking the loss, not the factory, because it just doesn't sound sexy. The used RV market has gotten very, very interesting over the last 2.5 weeks. And here's the reason why. So the book value, what the banks lend on, not what you see online. I'm not talking about JD Power. You get to go add all your options. That doesn't tell you the real value of an RV. What does matter is what the banks lend on. And it's something dealerships have to pay to access. So the lending guideline book has dropped significantly in 2.5 weeks. Now, what's the cause of that? The cause of that is dealerships in general. Now, not all dealerships, guys, because I know there's knuckleheads out there that still think they can make a profit on 2023 inventory. Yeah, let's see how long those guys stay in business, right? Okay. So 2023s are being sold for significant losses. I just took a $16,000 loss on a 2023 front living room fifth wheel the other day. So what does that do for front living room fifth wheels that are 2-3 years old? It devalues them really quickly. So the bank book changes a lot quicker than what you personally can access online. It's just like the car business. KBB has a retail / estimated trade-in / estimated shopping experience site, and then they have the real book value that the banks use to lend on. Same thing in the RV business, but obviously it's not VIN related. Like you could put your VIN number in kbb.org and it could pull up your exacts almost of what your car has. The RV business doesn't work like that because banks don't care about your options. I know, you're going to be mad at me for that. And I understand you being mad at me for that. But the bank really doesn't care how many air conditioners it has, whether it has auto level, whether it has solar. They don't care. They allow us to basically finance it as if it was a stripped box. And that's how they deal with it. Some credit unions will allow you to add some options, but they don't allow all the options, if you get my drift, okay? Now, let's step over this. That all being said, what RV dealerships don't want you to know, especially the big corporate stores, and I'm not talking about just one corporate store, I'm talking about all corporate stores don't want you to know, is that mid-2022, we have to go back that far, the market took a bloodbath. So if you listen to Josh the RV Nerd, he was a little late in what was the bloodbath. But I agree with you that I do agree with him that there was a bloodbath, but it happened in 2022. So what did the big corporate stores do to try to keep things flowing? Well, they went out and bought a bunch of used. They did what we call street buys, which is customer straight to dealer. They went and took a lot of trade-ins, and especially they bought stuff at the auction. Now, a lot of that inventory is still in stock. And remember, I said the bank value has dropped dramatically. And if you listen to what I've been saying since September, it has corrected itself. I don't call it a crash, I call it a correction. It has corrected itself since September 1st and has done nothing but continue to correct itself. So what these big corporate stores that bought all this used RVs, what they're doing right now is they are underwater in their inventory. So not only are big corporate stores right now overstocked with new, but they're also underwater in all their used. So if you think you're upside down in your trade, wait until you see what they're upside down in their used product. The last thing on the used RV market is that even though the bank value or what the lending value of used RVs is going for, your trade-in is really going for, I have good news for you. The difference figure between what 2023 new inventory is being sold for and what your trade value is hasn't changed much in 3 years. I'm going to repeat that again. I know that's hard to process, so think about it for a second. Not the values, because obviously new 2023 trailers and motorhomes are being sold for a lot less money than they were a year or two ago, okay? But the difference figure between what your trade-in is worth or what your used RV is worth on a lending basis versus what the dealerships across the US and Canada are selling their new 2023 inventory for hasn't changed in 3 years. Now, the reason why it's a good thing is because as long as that stays true, if you have someone that thinks outside of the box, like I do, and there's a lot of guys like me across the US and Canada. It's not just me. I'm not like a Mr. Magician, the only guy on earth that knows how to do this stuff. But if you can find somebody that's a lot like me, they can help you get out of your trade and into the new unit you want with very little cash out of pocket. This is the time to do it. It's been that time for the last 6 months. It's going to be that time hopefully for the next 2 to 3 months. But I want to forewarn everybody. Even though dealerships are in inventory dump mode for January and February of this year, I don't know what's going to happen in March. There's a lot of companies out there saying the next 2 months are about dumping inventory and spring and summer are about making money. So if you can, I'm not saying go run and buy one right now. I'm saying if you have the ability, not if you're suffering, not if you can barely keep the electric bill on, not if you're like worried about your job. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about you're steady, you've been looking to do this, you've been holding your breath thinking there's going to be this massive crash. There isn't. This is going to be the last opportunity in the next 2 months to get out of your trade with very little cash and get into a new RV. But you got to find somebody like me. You can't walk into a dealership with a lazy finance person. And there's a lot of lazy people out there. So you want to make sure, there's 2 tips I'm going to give you. Number 1, focus in on the difference figure. Don't focus in on the values. Focus in on the difference figure between the new one you're buying and the trade-in. And then after that, then work cash out of pocket. You negotiate those 2 things, you're going to have a lot easier time getting a fabulous deal than you will if you keep harping on values. Okay, if you keep harping on values, you're never going to move the needle forward with anything, even yourself. So focus in on that difference figure. It's just an opinion. You can thrash me in the comment section if you want. But I'm telling you, if you sit back and think about it, if you focus on the difference figure and you focus in on the cash, the dealership has to work triple hard compared to negotiating values. I'm telling you, a lot of times they're going to sit and look at a deal and go, okay, do we buy the trade? I'm telling you, like one of the things I talked about to one of the managers that's been in this industry for 30 years, him and I bounce things off each other all the time. We work for the same company. And we've been talking about that. Lately, him and I have been buying trades. We've been just giving away the farm on the new to get the trade in because of the fact that it's a lower price value and we're trying to bring that $200 a month buyer back into the market, which is very hard to do on new right now, but easier to do on used. So just think about that for a second. If you walk into a dealership and you focus in on the difference figure and the cash out of pocket, if you negotiate those 2 things and everything lines up right payment wise, you are going to get a fantastic deal, especially considering the market we're in. Last video, I covered parts and service pretty detailed about the winter, but I want to add some things, okay, that I did for my last video. And that is, number one, thank you to everybody that left comments that are truck drivers, transporters, that kind of confirmed a lot of what I said about weather. So what I covered, I'll shrink it down to a very short statement, a couple statements, is what I stated was weather and vacations are really going to slow down parts and warranty work during the winter. And we haven't even hit bad weather across the US or Canada yet. We've gotten a sprinkle of it across the parts of the country, but that real bad winter weather really hasn't hit yet. That being said, be patient, okay? Now, I was able to get a slide out replaced in 3 days. That was impressive, especially during the holidays, but that's a rarity. Normally what I tell people is if you got problems warranty-wise during the winter, it is best to get it in as soon as possible. So for example, folks, if you're having a problem with your refrigerator right now, but you're not using the rig till like March, April, or May, get it into your dealer now and then take it home with you. Or take it back to its place of storage. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, first off, the worst thing for your rig to do, especially if you're not using it, is to sit on a dealership service department. No offense to service departments. I've worked in one for a lot of years. But accidents happen. You know, the less time you keep your rig at the service, in the service department, the better. Especially if you're waiting on parts, you're waiting on warranty work, okay? If you're a first timer, this is especially important. Now, let's say it's spring or summer. I'm gonna go one step further. If it's spring or summer, okay, and it's not something that's gonna stop you from camping, I'm talking about like a broken cabinet door or a broken blind or maybe, you know, something's wrong with a couch or something. If it's not gonna prevent you from camping, get it to your dealership, let them do what they need to do documentation-wise, photo-wise for the manufacturer or for the extended warranty company, and then go enjoy your camper for your vacations. Don't put your vacations on hold over stuff that is like stabilizer jacks breaking or you know, things that basically don't stop you from camping. Now, this is you could do whatever you want. You guys know that. But it's just a piece of advice because it really, really sucks. It stinks for everybody, including the service writer and the technician, when you have a rig sitting for 2 months waiting for a part and you're just about ready to use it for anything. Maybe you got some in-laws coming in and you don't want them in your house, or maybe you're going to have, you know, kids are going to camp out in the backyard in the trailer, or maybe you got a fishing trip plan that's going to be opening day in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains. Either way, if it's a major problem, obviously keep it there. But if it's something that's not going to prevent you from camping, get it out of that service department. The less time it's in there, the better for you and your rig, especially if it's just waiting on a cabinet door or something. Okay. Now, I'm going to throw one last thing at you guys, all right? And I want you to have food for thought with this, okay? I have some people that ask me a lot, are extended warranties worth it? Okay. I believe they're worth it because I've worked in a service department for a long time and I've seen some enormous bills. And then I've seen also good acquaintances and colleagues of mine that tell me all the time, well, I'll just work on my own. I'm pretty handy. And then they take up a lot of their time that they could be fishing or spending time with their family trying to fix their rig rather than you know, enjoying their family. So extended warranties are not just a good area to save money with service departments, but it also is about time. That's what it's mostly about for me. It's about how much time do you want to spend fixing stuff in your coach. Now, I'm not talking about little things like your water pump or adjusting a drawer or something like that. I'll talk about if you need a slide out repair, if you needed something to do with the electrical system or the electric braking system. I'm talking about major appliances like air conditioners and refrigerators, things like that. That's more about time. not just money. Money is always a factor, okay? But I don't use money as a factor when I sell extended warranties. I actually use time as the factor, because we only get so much time on this earth. How much of that time do you want to spend fixing your own rig, right? So just food for thought. Now, I did do an interesting video about 2023 inventory versus 2024's and some of the differences or not so differences. And that video is right there for you to click on. Until next time, just remember RV stands for toolkit and sense of humor. And, oh yeah, they're earthquakes on wheels.